Hi everyone, I'm Havish Madhvapati, founder at Havisham Consulting. In this video, I want to talk about how you can write effective prompts. We've all been working on tools like ChatGPT for a while now, and I'm sure all of you will agree with me that a large part of getting to good results is to do with the quality of prompts that you're writing. Sure, there are paid tools, there are different models, and there are different tools on offer as well. And the competition keeps on increasing day by day. But one of the most important skills that you have to develop is in terms of how to write a good prompt. And that is what I want to talk about. So, the very first thing is that you have to keep in mind different parts of that prompt. For example, a bad prompt would be make a marketing plan for social media. Now, objectively speaking, there really isn't anything wrong with it. Will we get an output? Sure. Will the output be relevant to what we have asked? Of course. Will ChatGPT say that this prompt is insufficient or is ambiguous? Of course not. But then how can you expect to get a good answer unless and until you specify different components? Let me take you through it one by one. So the very first thing is task description, which is where you define what needs to be done. Now our prompt says that we want a marketing plan, which is great. So we have defined the task. But we also have to give the context, which is background information and relevant details. For example, who are you creating it for? Is this the first time that you're creating a plan, or is this an updated plan? Is this a plan that has been made because the earlier plan did not work? Unless there is the historical background context, you will not expect ChatGPT to give you a really good answer. After all, it is not a mind reader. The third is persona role, which means we have to tell it two things. A, who we are, what is our role, what is my job designation, which company sector do I work in, who's my reporting manager, how many years of experience do I have, what are my KRAs, key success factor, what is the project that I'm currently working on, what am I prioritizing. Unless and until we share these details, I'm not saying you have to tell it anything confidential, but you must tell it these details. Similarly, there also has to be a role that you assign to the generative AI tool. So we must tell ChatGPT, for example, how would we like it to talk back to us? Should it talk to us as a peer? Should it talk to us as a devil's advocate? Should it talk to us as a client, or maybe an industry expert, or maybe a manager, or maybe a client? So that role is very important on both ends. Who are you? What are the characteristics that you have? And similarly, who do you want generative AI to act as? Then we have specific requirements. This is where you define specific detail. For example, when we said, I want social media, sure, that's a specific detail, but we're still missing out on a lot of other things. Boundaries talks about any limitation and constraints. For example, if I do not want to advertise on LinkedIn as a social media, we have to mention that. Otherwise, we will get an output that has LinkedIn, and then we might not like it and we have to remove it. The format, do we want a table? Do we want bullet points? Do we want each bullet point to have two sub points in it? We have to specify that. The tone and the style, professional, casual, something in between, filled with jargon, no jargon, simplified. What is the language? Should it be a combination of those different styles? We have to talk about all of this. For example, if it's an elevator pitch, you will write in a certain way. On the other hand, if it's a very serious board meeting presentation, the tone would be a little different. In fact, different parts of your output can also have different tones in it. So maybe the introduction could be a little formal and the conclusion could be a little more casual, a little more witty. Examples. If we give it an example or a sample of something we have already done or something that is available on the internet, it understands better what it is supposed to do. For example, if I say create a survey with 5 questions, of course it will do it. But the moment I say create a survey with 5 questions and you give it a sample of 3 questions that you've already prepared earlier, it will understand your tone and style and expectations much better. And the reasoning. Now, models like DeepSeek, O1, advanced reasoning on all the different tools allow you, these are mostly the paid models, they allow you to also get the justification and the rationale behind something. So, for example, if I ask it to evaluate 3 CVs and pick one, it is going to tell you whom it picked, but you also must ask it to give you the justification as to how and why did it do that. So just to recap, our bad prompt, which is make a marketing plan for social media, can be improved into create a social media marketing strategy for a new eco-friendly skincare brand. Who are we targeting? Millennials. We want to include content theme, posting frequency, engagement tactics. So Instagram and TikTok are the boundary. Those are the 2 channels I want to use. Friendly, authentic voice, which is the tone and style. Emphasizing sustainability. Provide example post idea, which means that we are asking it to also give it some examples so that we can validate whether we like it or not. And the hashtag strategy. Consider seasonal campaign and influencer partnership and the budget and the timeline. Of course, this prompt can be made even better. And it's never about writing one perfect prompt. It's about iterating and trying different variations. The other thing you can do is to give custom instructions. Google, Gemini, OpenAI, ChatGPT, Anthropic, Claude, Perplexity, all of them allow you to do this. Let's have a look. On ChatGPT, we can go to settings and select customize ChatGPT. And as you can see, we can give it different details like what should ChatGPT call me? What do I do? What are my traits? And anything else that we want to share with it. As a matter of fact, in advance, we can also enable additional capabilities. If you want to save custom instructions for different projects that you're handling, we can also open our projects panel. For example, for HMC, that is my internal work, I can add files and instructions that are specific to this project. That means I can keep on shuffling between different projects at the same time. Similarly, when we go to Google Gemini and we go to settings, we have the option called saved info. This allows us to tell it who we are and how we want it to talk to us. If we do the same thing on Claude, we again have settings and we have our function and personal preferences that we can define. And we can do the same in other tools as well, more or less. The next thing is a quick way of getting a better output. I'm not suggesting that this is what you should always do. Ideally, you should follow a framework, something like this, to spend time and get a better prompt. But if you're in a hurry, you can do this as well. Let's take an example. Let us say we want to create an SOP. So create an SOP for hiring contractual workers for a project. Now, again, like I said, this is not a bad prompt, but a good idea would be to say, this is my prompt, and we will say refine it. So what we are doing is that without spending too much time of my own, I'm able to get not just a longer, but also a better prompt like this. The follow-up on this would be to ask for variations. That means once I have the prompt created, we can paste it and we can say give 10 variations. And as you can see, now it gives you 10 variations, but this is for the SOP. So we'll have to tell it more clearly that this is my prompt, give 10 variations of this prompt. As you can see, it takes the prompt and it gives you 10 different variations. And this is great because maybe when you look at one of the others, you might be able to understand better which is the one that fits your need the best. As a matter of fact, I can even combine a few of them. So if I say combine 2, 5, and 9, so point number 2, point number 5, and point number 9, as you can see, it can do that as well. There we go. Chunking information is also a good idea. The problem with writing a very big prompt is that after you get the output, and there are certain parts you like and certain parts you would like to iterate on and modify, that becomes a little difficult. So the better idea is that I'll break my prompt into 3 parts. The first one is list 5 reasons why electric vehicles are better for the environment. The second is expand on reason 1 with detailed scientific evidence. And the third is summarize this information for a beginner audience. Now, because we have broken our prompt into 3 chunks, it is first going to handle the first one, and then as a continuation of that, it is going to make the second one, which is the detailed scientific evidence. And then finally, the third part would be a summary for a target audience, which in this case is a beginner audience. So as you can see, we get this. Now this makes it much easier because if we like the other parts of my output, but if I just want to tell it, change the summary into one for experts, I can either do it as a follow-up to the first one, or I can even come back to my original prompt and change it here. Now this makes it much easier because without having to tamper with the rest of the output, we are able to make changes exactly where I need to. So this is how we break it into 3 parts. Another suggestion would be to create function-specific frameworks. Now this could be function-specific, or for that matter, even organization-wide. Like in this case, I've created an HR strategic framework, hire, talk, grow, engage, path. Now this is something I have created on my own because this is something that I use repeatedly. For example, if you look at the hire framework, it shows us define key roles and responsibility, which is highlight, pinpoint challenges or gaps, that is identify, improve processes or policy, that is refine, and execute, which is provide actionable steps. Now this also ensures that there's a lot of consistency in the way different people in a team, in a function, in a company are writing their prompts. One more suggestion that I do for myself as well is to reuse your prompts, which means if you spend a lot of time getting the perfect prompt, don't just delete the file or let the file decay in some folder that you will never remember. A lot of time we spend 30 minutes, 60 minutes refining the prompt till we get the exact output that we wanted. Please save those screenshots. While at that moment it might seem needless because everything is fresh in your mind, believe me, over a period of time, having a glossary like this with you will allow you to go back to it whenever you need to refer to something that you had done, let's say 6 months back, and then build on top of it. For example, I have about 5,000 slides with me. While this might seem very haphazard, I've also cataloged it into different types of trainings, different types of clients, functions, etc. And very often I go back to it to see the older prompts that I've written so that I can quickly recap what I did and then build on top of it. Another suggestion is to save entire prompts with Go Full Page. Now, Go Full Page is an add-in available on Google Chrome. I believe it's available on other browsers as well. And this allows you to save a very long prompt as one single PDF. Let me give you an example. So let us say we have a prompt like this, which runs into 2 to 3 pages. Now, if I press Ctrl P, you will notice that it is not able to scroll through the page and select it in its entirety. So what we'll do is to select Go Full Page. That's the add-in that I have installed. And when I click on it, it will automatically scroll through the page, take a snapshot of the entire area. And as you can see, the final output is going to be one single document that looks like this. And from here, you can even download it as a PDF that looks like this. This is again a great way of saving prompts that you have done earlier. And rather than taking screenshots of different pages, you can make it as one large document. In fact, there are cases where it runs into 50-60 pages, and it's very easy for me to save it as one PDF and then send it over to someone. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Obviously, prompting, I think the biggest takeaway I can give everyone is to keep on iterating. Never get comfortable doing the same thing over and over again. Even if something works for you really well, try to break it. Try to do something different. Try to try new ideas. Some of them click, a lot of them don't click, but that's a learning in itself as well. Because at the end of the day, while you might have all these models, tools, different companies competing for writing the perfect prompt and giving you the perfect output, and these companies will also enable you to write prompts in a much easier manner with templates and features. The reality is that you knowing how to write a good prompt is the most important skill that you need to have.